Nation, we've reached the heart of winter. Outside it's snowing. Alaska's buried under 150 inches. In the time in which, whenever we were kids, caused rejoicing, now met with a lot of frowns and a lot of depression. Doom metal, black metal, death metal, a lot of different kinds of metal are associated with the winter time. You might wonder why death metal is, but, well, I'd be that pissed off if it was winter all the time. However, today, with today's review, a grim reminder. This is going to be Woods 5, Gray Skies and Electric Light, by a band who has a name that has been debated and said and misspoke amongst the album review community as Woods of Ypres, Woods of Ypres, Woods of Ypres. However you decide that you want to pronounce it, and however it may actually be pronounced, that's fine. However, the more important idea right here is rest in peace to the 31-year-old mastermind of this amazing Canadian band, David Gold. David Gold, unfortunately, lost his life in late December due to a car accident. This final opus by Woods of Ypres, or Woods of Ypres, however you wish to say it, is a landmark album. This is an album that really conjures up a lot of past history for me. It really reminds me of a lot of different names. And that's something that this band's been able to do ever since they first got into the market. This is a Canadian band that was really on the rise, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe some people thought that maybe they were moving off the wagon, but if you talk to me in the middle part of the 2000s, this is a band that was gaining a lot of know-how. It was also gaining a lot of fans. The combination of those two things are what was causing this band to really have a strong legendary aspect in the underground portions of the metal community. And it was one where this was a band that was just about to have a big breakout. And this was an album that could potentially have been that breakout. However, this is an album that also has something that's so harrowing, so strange, so unbelievably creepy on it, that it needs to be mentioned. This is a band and this is an album that conjures up names such as My Dying Bride, such as Paradise Lost, to the point in which an ex-friend of mine would probably label them as just a clone of those two bands, and not good for that reason. However, we here at the Cover Killer Nation do not share such simplistic and shallow views. You can also hear a lot of typo negative in David Gold's voice. You can also hear, just in his cadence, how that really makes a very, very fair distinction. However, this album's creepiness, the album itself, has a very depressive, a very light versus dark feel to it. There's a lot of depression, a lot of suicidal type of element. Almost as though at portions on this album, it kind of harbors and borderlines on suicidal doom or suicidal black metal. But it doesn't. It doesn't have those trademarks. It's just in the lyrical content. And lyrical content does not distinguish at all whether or not something should be labeled under the suicidal doom, tag, or just the regular doom tag. Blech. But what's really scary, what's really creepy, is that David Gold on this album, whenever he was writing it, almost seemed like he knew, in a Nostradamus-like prophetic manner, that his life was on borrowed time, and that it soon would be coming to an end. Exhibit A would be Kiss My Ashes Goodbye, Parts 1 and 2. In the title alone, it's almost like he's saying goodbye to everybody. It's strange, it's odd, and it's at the end of the record. Almost as if saying, this is it. Almost as if saying goodbye to each and every one of his fans, to his family, to his friends, to each and every person that influenced his life and that he was able to influence. Exhibit B could be in some of the other tracks on the album, where it seems as though he's talking in a very philosophical manner, but also in a very real manner, in a very conversational manner, about how death just seems so close, or death just seems so welcome. It's very, very similar to how I felt whenever I first listened to Ride the Lightning by Metallica, or whenever I first listened to Master of Puppets' Orion, Orion off of Master of Puppets by Metallica. I really felt that, Cliff almost knew that he was on borrowed time, so he was going to just write all of these, phenomenal, bass lines and be part of some of the best records of all time. And then, of course, you hear a poem written by Cliff Burton on To Live Is To Die on And Justice for All after he had already passed, and you just, wow. It's weird how sometimes these individuals can feel death coming, even though it's something that none of us know when the date or the hour or time will come. This album is able to blend great melodies with great vocals alongside fabulous guitar work. The songwriting on this album is very exquisite. It's very tasteful. Some people, some ignorant, shallow people might say that at points this band sounds a little bit like him, His Infernal Majesty, because of the clean vocals that are exhibited primarily on a couple of the opening tracks on the album and are present somewhat in a spattering throughout, all the way through. These people are silly. These people are trying to draw a conclusion that maybe Woods had gone a little bit, mainstream. Nah. This is something that's been on the present in their vocals for quite some time, and it's something that perhaps had a little bit more of a heightened flavor on this album. In reality, what this album was really doing was trying to emote the feeling that David Gold had, that perhaps his time was borrowed. It was trying to emote everything that he was writing about in the perfect, most exquisite way. He was trying to emote the words that he had scribbled down on the paper, as opposed to just singing them as though they meant nothing. This is David Gold's way of really showing that the words that were on that paper meant a lot more. This is a great album. This is an album that unfortunately will probably never ever get a CD release, though I hope so, now that David has unfortunately passed away. I really hope that those people who control the music are able to convince the family members to allow them to release this, because it would be a fantastic tribute to David. It's initially supposed to only be a digital run, but there's a release date for it later here in January, so I hope that that's something that they've really changed their mind ever since his unfortunate and tragic passing. It's very sad whenever you hear that a gentleman has died, that had a grand vision, that was really able to execute it with every piece of music that he put out. And it's also very tragic to hear the prophecy, the Nostradamus-like wisdom, but also Nostradamus-like predictions that can be found and exhibited on this record that almost foretell his end. Rest in peace, David Gold. To the family and friends who knew David and loved David the most, we offer our most sincere condolences. This is an album that I highly recommend that you all pick up. You all must hear this to really believe it. And not to mention, along the way, you will experience a truly fantastic work. One that will definitely spellbind you. And one that will also make you want to go back into the previous works of his discography. Woods was a band that was on the rise. Woods was a band that was inches away from a breakout. Woods is a band no more, but the music lives on forever.